man, that just sets you up for success. So what do the worst PTs do? They're not organized. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Welcome to all new listeners. Those who have heard my content in the past, welcome back. I just finished training and I am feeling great going into the weekend. I'm recording this on Friday afternoon, Friday evening before I go and hang out with the family. And I am excited for those of you who have been looking forward to this episode. With the utmost respect, please do not be angry with me. This topic is very sensitive for some people. I don't mean that anybody is the best or the worst. And what I mean by this title, the worst PTs do these three things. I really am speaking to people who are looking for more. People who are not looking for more might have a different perspective, and I want to share what that means to me in my current state of professional career. And as I mentor more people, as I look to lead a team of 14, now 15 people at Sports Performance, I am having a lot of great conversations with team members about what success looks like. And I also had to have a conversation of what success does not look like, and that's what I want to share with you guys. Before I move on to the podcast, what is new with life? Literally, this last week, even 2 weeks, has been filled with absolute great meetings with one-on-ones with our team members, annual reviews, 9-month reviews, annual planning, both with my wife, with my team, my wife. We had to kind of map out our entire year and what that looks like for us, and how that affects and impacts ultimately the team that we have. And so it's just been a lot of planning, so much for the entire year. And we have two more big meetings next week, but I am excited to get past this in January and really look forward to the new year. And this goes along with the topic. The reason why this is one of the biggest years that we've ever had, and both me personally and professionally, to map out an entire year. That's really hard. That means you have to do a lot of like deep work to be able to think about what it means. Where are you going to be in 3 months? Where are you going to be in 6? Where are you going to be in 9? Where are you going to be in 12? And we had to ask the team the same question. So we have PTs, massage therapists, performance specialists, marketing department, operational department, and we have to ask the same things. And everybody has to kind of dig deep and figure out what that means for them. And so we truly mapped out what it meant for us as a company, as a team, and personally what we needed to do to be able to be the best version ourselves, both fitness wise and for some of us finance wise, some of us relationships wise. And a lot of our clinicians were like, okay, so what are we going to do professionally? What are our courses going to be? What things are we going to host? What are your courses? What are we doing to enhance our everyday skill set? And we had some really deep talks about what success looks like, both personally and professionally. And a lot of it had to do with, I think that we all, everybody listening here is trying to get better at some version of yourself. Some of you are here because you want to hear how to manage athletes a little bit better. Some are, what course should I take? Or I really want to get better at a specific region, or I really want to get better at strength and conditioning, or I really want to get better at acute injury management, or I really want to get better at Therax or clinical or corrective exercise, whatever your list is. And I think that's all great. However, when you look at true success, right, the people who are great at their job, the people who are fantastic, are the ones who lead by example. The ones who they come in every day and they're excited and they're passionate, and there's not a lot of highs and there's not a lot of lows. What I mean by that is, if you ever gone to work and you're gonna think about some coworkers right now who you might think man, they're just they just suck the energy out of you. They're not you want to be around people who are pushing you to be the best, right? Or they just push you to be excited about the day. And then you have others who they're the opposite. How's your day? It's horrible. How was your weekend? Oh, it was the worst. How is your family? Oh, not doing great. And you're like, man, I can't get anything. And you don't know what's going on in their personal life, so it's a little tough. And so the challenge I tell people is that the ones who are most successful, when you look at those people, they're very consistent, both in their attitude and how they carry themselves, and how they present themselves to patients and athletes. They're just very consistent. Like they're just there every day in the grind. There's not a lot of highs, not a lot of lows, and they're just very consistent across the board. And we talked about how, as a team, if you're not consistent and you have a lot of highs and lows and you let your external environments impact you, truly that's not going to set you up for success. And who's going to pay the price? The rest of the team. And so we talked about very professionally. I think some of the best things you can do is really take care of yourself. And I know that sounds really straightforward to a lot of you who are listening to my content for the first time, but for those who've heard it in the past, and you know where I want to push people, I really think that we have to address a couple other things. So we did this annual planning meeting, and everybody's listing off what they have to work on. Some people want to get better at the CSCS. Some people want to take the OCS. Some people take the SCS. Some people just want to go to the gym 5 days a week the whole year. And everybody had a different version of themselves they want to do. Some people want to save a certain amount of money. Some people want to buy their first house. And so it's really cool because you see people at different time points in their life trying to improve wherever they can. And I said, we looked at what the company has to be able to do for all of us to achieve those things, and underlying all those things, if you wanted to come into work every day and enjoying every day of your life at work and being consistent, is actually the same as going to the gym 5 days a week. You can't have a lot of highs and can't have a lot of lows. And so every one of us had goals that we want to set. Me personally, I love being with my kids and my family, and I really want to like just be present and be part of their lives throughout the whole year and every day. And that means I have to be consistent. But then we said, okay, what are the 2 or 3 things that are going to limit you from achieving that? Most people think about, they don't reflect into the end of the year. Like last year, what could you have done better? That's what people typically say, right? They're like, hey, it was an average year or a great year, and you ask like why, and you're like, oh, because I stuck to running a little bit more consistently, and I spent time on myself, and I reflected, and I meditated, or I did yoga, or I went to the gym, and that's great, and that's great to celebrate success. But it's actually even harder to forecast what your success is going to be look like in the next year, and then figure out what are the two to three things that will limit you from getting to that point. And when you do that, you actually have to dig deep and now set internal goals of what that means for you. And how does this how does this get back to what the worst PTs do? It actually has to do a lot with setting these 2 to 3 things. So when I say that, if you think about, if you're listening to this podcast, you're in your car, you're working out, whatever it is, what are the 2 to 3 things that you do that you're not the most proud of, or that you are confident that you can improve on? And if your employer, your mentor, anybody asked you, and you can be honest and genuine with them, what would you say? Right? Like, what's the one thing? And I shared with my team, the one thing I can do this year is trust them, and that will set everybody up for success. Now, but that's my internal one, right? Like, all I have to do is know that I have the best team possible, and I'm going to trust them. I got them. That will set everybody up for success. That one thing sets everybody up. But that's important to me. Now, every person on this team had a little different of an answer. But I, most recently yesterday, had a really good meeting with our marketing and sales team. And we talked about what are the 3 things that will limit their success, and actually all of our successes. And it actually moves over to PTs. And the 3 things I wanted to share today. Number 1. All right. This is a personal one to me. Organization. A lack of organization. And the worst PTs will do this. And here's why. All right. I presented this to a team member, and let me have you kind of sit, just kind of listen in if you've ever done this or a day like this has happened to you. You ready? All right. You wake up late. Your alarm didn't go off, or your phone battery was not there, or you hit snooze too many times. You slept in. You're like, no. You're already starting the day off wrong. And then you go out to your car. You either have a flat tire or you have no gas in your car and you're already late to work. Some of you are shaking your head already. And then the next one is you show up to work and something bad already happened at work, or maybe your coworker called out sick and now you have to take on all their caseload. So not only were you late, put you in a different mental state, you woke up late, you didn't have gas, you showed up even later than you needed to, and you have a full caseload. And then, to kick it off, you forgot your lunch. It's on the kitchen table, on the kitchen counter. You forgot your lunch. So now you were late, you didn't have gas, your coworker called off sick, so now you have a full caseload. Now you have three or four, six evals for the day, and they're all going to take extra time to document, and you don't have lunch. What kind of day is that? Here's the next one. And then after all that long day, you planned on going to the gym. Oh, do you think that's going to happen? You probably had a headache from the beginning of the day. You were rushed. You didn't feel your normal self. You had a full caseload. You didn't have lunch. Yeah, there's a lot of layers, and then you get to go to the gym. That's a reality. I think that's happened to all of us. But to some of us, it happens more often than others. And if I tell you the best PTs do certain things, the worst PTs do these things. They don't organize their day. And what I mean by that is the best PTs, I said one thing, they're just consistent. They just show up, they got high energy, and they're ready to rock and roll. They go to the gym regularly. They put gas in their car regularly. They have several alarms. They have a backup alarm. They don't rely on their phone. They have an alarm clock, like a physical alarm clock. They just organize. They're prepared for the day. They if I asked you right now, how many pictures do you have in your phone? Would you say 10,000, 20,000? Or would you say, less than 1,000, and you organize, delete, move them into folders or whatever it is? Now, let's check your email. Does your email have 300 messages? Do you have 20 emails? Are they all filtered into folders? Do you have a Gmail account or a Yahoo account? And you have folders that have all your files categorized. And so, what does that have to do with the worst PTs? The worst PTs are not consistent. They always have things happening to them. And they're all disorganized. They're all over the place. And life always happens to them. No gas, flat tire, whatever it is. But that required so much on the front end. And again, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to criticize anybody. It's just my observation. If you're looking at being the best, because that's ultimately where we aspire to be. We want to enjoy what we do. In order to enjoy what we do, you actually have to be organized to set you up for success. So that's number one. That's the first thing. Number two, now that you're organized, you actually have to plan. Now, what I do on a daily basis, and this is not for everyone, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning. I wake up, brush the teeth, do a little personal meditation and thinking, just get some mental clarity. I'll start a book, and I'll then create my top 3 things to do for the day. Non-negotiable. If I do these 3 things, it sets me up for success for tomorrow. There's always, we have 15 team members. I got 3 kids, my dog, the house. There's always something happening, and I love every aspect of it. But I have to be organized, and then I actually have to plan so that way it sets me up for success. And when you're a PT, even if you have a full caseload of 12 to 24 people a day, or 18 or 8 or 10 or whatever that is, the best PTs would totally be ready to rock and roll. They looked at their stuff, maybe when they're eating their breakfast or whatever it is on the kitchen table, they're looking at a full caseload. They're like, these 2 people are going to be late. This person's going to not show up. This one's going to need more attention here. They're going to need more corrective exercises. This one's going to need a little bit more detail. I'm going to have to call somebody. When am I going to do that? And so they mapped out their day. They're already ready. And their emails organized, all their Google Drive is organized, their cars organized, they had gas in there. That person is already forecasting and planning. They're organized in their daily life, and they're already planning for the day. And what that does is, guess what that person looks like while at work? They're just like, how are you so happy all the time? How are you enjoying this day? Well, because they kind of mapped out their day, and they knew when things were going to hit them, and this was going to be busy and this person was going to be late. Yeah, there's always things happen at you, but the better you organize, the better you plan, man, that just sets you up for success. So what do the worst PTs do? They're not organized. Things are all over the place, and things always seem to just get lost. They don't plan. So of course life hits them and they weren't ready for it. Flat tire, no gas, no lunch. And so of course they can't go to the gym. Ultimately, why do we go to the gym? It helps relax us. It ultimately helps us feel confident, right? We all go to the gym to feel better about ourselves somehow. Endorphins, whatever it is, want to release the stress, but it makes us feel good. It makes us feel confident that we did something productive for ourselves. And the one thing that we can do to go to the gym is be consistent. But if life hits you all over the place, the last thing to go, or the first thing to go, is going to probably be your food. The second thing is going to be your gym. And if you take away your fitness, your diet, and your sleep, you're not happy. And the way you clean that up is you meal prep, or you make your lunch and do whatever it is that you plan, and you're set up for success on your food. You got to get your 8 hours or 10 hours or 6 hours or whatever it is that you need to function on your sleep. If you sleep enough, you had your meal prepped out, ready to go, and you organized and planned your day, of course you're going to go to the gym every single day. But for those PTs who aren't organized or they don't plan, life just happens to them. It's the truth. Think about your coworkers. The ones who, say it's hard to go to the gym, or I can't, I have a hard time staying true to good eating habits, or I can never get sleep. Well, there's so much on the back that you don't even know the whole story. But ultimately, if we can do those 3 things, get sleep, clean up your diet, and work out, that sets you up. Think about how happy you are, and that translates into work, and they're happy. And think about the PTs who you don't aspire to be, or the people who don't motivate you. So number 1, the worst PTs do not organize. The worst PTs do not plan. And this is the kick. This is the big one. The worst PTs do not implement. Meaning, you can organize all you want. You can plan all you want. Set the goals. Do them. Show me, don't tell me. The best PTs, they will implement. They will just do it. They will show up, even if it's not 100%, they just do it. Don't be afraid to just put the effort in. It's okay to fail. Just do it. And those are the best. And think about people who you look up to. The ones who you look up to, they're just full force, in it to win it. They believe in themselves. They have a lot of confidence, and they just go. They just go. Somebody asked me a question today. They said, "Hey, Chris, we're talking about my undergrad, and for those who don't know, I had an interesting upbringing, and I'll do a podcast on that. But I was illiterate for a large portion of my life, and college is where I really started to actually learn how to read and write. Believe it or not, I was 18 years old, still trying to formulate a sentence. I didn't know the difference between a comma and a colon and semicolon. I didn't know any of that. And somebody said, "So how was your undergrad?" And I said, "You know, I was trying to learn how to read and write at the same time while I was trying to learn how to finish my degree in kinesiology." And they said, "How'd you do that?" I said, "I just woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and I was working on reading and writing, and then I'd go to class, show up, finish at 3 or 4, and while everybody was out having fun, I had no choice. I had to put in the work behind the scenes. So I'd come home at 9 or 10 at night and just repeat for 4 to 5 years, and just nobody. That doesn't sound fun to anybody. And I think the biggest thing, and don't mistake that for arrogance. It's just the underlying thing is you just got to be consistent. And for me, nobody was going to do that, and I had no choice. And the people who are successful, the best PTs, they're just consistent. Because here's why. One of my team members asked me recently. They're like, "I just want to be the best. I just want to absorb everything. I just want to like be around it all the time." And the reality is, I don't think you need to be in practice for 8 to 10 years to be the best and be a master clinician. I just think that you need to be around more master clinicians so you make a mistake and learn from that, and that exponentially improves your next skill set. So I think you can expedite that process, hands down. But they're like, "I just want to absorb it all." But the reality is, there's a little bit of time in there in that requires a lot of reflection and learning from that last mistake. So you just can't. It's like trying to give people too much content to begin with, and they just can't digest it. It's like you're just giving them too much food, and they haven't finished the first one. They're trying to eat the second piece of pizza when the first one's full. And ultimately, you got to be able to digest a little bit, reflect on that, get feedback on that, go to that next one, try it. And the person who does that the most wins. The person who is the most consistent wins. But most people, and you can think about this, the most people who are not successful, they dropped off. They came in hot. They were like, man, they're like first year PT school. They're like coming in hot, taking 2 or 3 courses a year, paying out of pocket for some of those stuff. They were going to seminars. They're going to, they're creating small groups of other PTs and getting together on weekends and trying to study for a CSCS. They try to go for the OCS and the SCS, and then like they just fizzled. They're like, "Yeah, it was a lot of work," or "I want my weekends back," or I met somebody, or my spouse said no more, or whatever it is. And the ones who are consistent, I'm not telling you to give up your personal life. I'm just trying to say there's a balance and there's a long game. In this professional career, there's a long game. I've been doing this a long time. And if you can go 80% and consistent, give your 80% effort and just be consistent. Most people come in hot. They go in at 100% and they just drop off. They just can't. You can't sustain that. Somebody who's going to go on a diet and try and live on that diet their whole life, not possible. But the one who can have a little bit of change and be consistent with that and just keeps hitting that, they're going to win. They're going to lose the most weight in the long game. And that's just the same thing with exercise. You can't have somebody who comes in January 1st, goes in full force at, exercising 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, not sustainable. But the person who does 4 or 5 days, 45 minutes to an hour, they're not too sore, it allows them to go to the next day. And that's what consistency is. That's going to set people up for success. So some of this applies to your patients and athletes, but some of this applies to your professional development. And I wanted to tell you the 3 things that the worst PTs do. They don't organize, they don't plan, and they don't implement. They don't organize, they don't plan, and they don't implement. And the most important thing is they don't implement, meaning they can come in with all these great ideas. Man, I learned this new technique. Check it out. And then they don't use it anymore after that week. Or, hey, let's try and change the strategy and do this and blah, blah, blah. Here, try these new exercise. Try this new ACL progression. And that was like the exercise of the week. And it just like floods. And the problem, and I'll be honest with you, I think the problem is a lot of times social media, YouTube, Facebook, all these platforms, they're just feeding you content. And the problem is we just can't digest enough and absorb it, try and process it, learn from it, move on, because the next time we open that phone, it's like 2 new exercises, 2 new strategies, 5 new things. And sometimes you just have to like push the plate away and be like, maybe I shouldn't try those things. Let me just get good at what I'm doing. And if you're trying to become the best, I think you just need to like be consistent and master the fundamentals. You got to organize your week, plan out how you're going to manage athletes for the week, and just do the darn thing. And if you're always looking for the next exercise, the next best thing, the next thing to make you the best clinician, or the thing that's going to make you known by athletes, or whatever it is that you've seen on social media, that's what's going to set you up for failure actually, because you need to digest it, let it simmer, work on it, and just do it for weeks at a time, months at a time, years at a time, and have somebody there who's like, all right, let's start picking it up here. And when you rely on yourself, we all get distracted, right? Think about a goal that you set like 2 months ago. I'm really gonna insert goal, right? Like whatever you're gonna do. Guess what? It's probably like fizzled out by now. But if you have somebody there who's like, hey, you know what? Let's just try this for 3 months. Try that out. Get really good at this, and then let's reassess. And that's the structure we have now with our team. We're just doing quarterly goals. Set that up. You got 3 months to maintain that. Try it. Don't do anything else but these 1 or 2 goals. That's it. You just do that. Just get really good at that. Master that. Next, what's the next thing you're going to do? And it was funny, after the annual planning, we had some clinicians who were like, man, I just need to organize. And I said, why? They're like, things just come at me all the time. And I'm like, these are professionals, right? These are people who've, they've done the thing, and they're smart human beings, and they're amazing what they do. But we're all human, and we just get distracted, and we don't stay consistent. And I think that's what's going to set like the best people up. If you ask me, the people who I've looked up to and I still look up to are the people who are they're still doing it. They mentored me, but they're just like consistent. And the ones that I don't necessarily look up to, they move on to the next thing, and like there's no progress, there's no linear slope towards whatever they're trying to achieve. They just have been like erratic, and they've actually made no progress because they go highs and lows, highs and lows, and highs and lows, and that's not really motivating. What is motivating is the people, when you look at them a year from now, they just incremental improvements, and you admire that. That's actually what you do. And so when you're looking at mentors and your leaders, your boss, your employer, your coworkers, look for the person who does those three the most. And actually you might be like, man, actually my coworker, they're actually steady, even keel, and they do 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3, whatever it is. They organize, they plan, and they implement. Those 3 things are what successful people do. And they're also the things that the worst PTs do. And what I mean, worst is a harsh word. Maybe people who you don't look up to. Those are the 3 things that they do. And if you think about it, like think of one person right now who you're like, I think they're great. They're a great human being, but they're not necessarily good at what their craft is. And let's take out that. Let's assume they enjoy their job. If we assume they enjoy their job, the reason why they don't get better is because that CEU course that would have helped them, they didn't look ahead of time. They just were looking erratically when their CEUs were due. So now they actually have to just take whatever CEU course that they can because of a time constraint. So of course they're not going to advance professionally. Or their patients and athletes don't really get better because they don't literally plan ahead to make sure that they're actually building out programs. They're not progressive. They don't organize their day, so they're stuck 2 hours doing paperwork, and they don't enjoy their job because they don't organize. They didn't start their day off with lunch, or they didn't stay up and move their gym time to the morning, and they don't work out in the morning, or whatever it is. Just people who are constantly reflecting, organizing, planning their day. And the last one is they gotta do the darn thing. Literally, if you don't do it, you're just a thinker. You gotta be a doer. You gotta do it. And yeah, one day I'm gonna get an SCS. One day I'm gonna do a residency. One day, one day turns into 2 years later or a year later, and there's nothing wrong with that. If my team tells me that, the next thing I'm telling them is, all right, write it on paper. Tell me what you're doing, and I'm gonna check in on you in 3 months. Because I'm not talking about one day. I'm talking about 3 months from now, like on an actual date. And people will always change their goals, and you have every right to. What I will do is keep you accountable to at least be progressing, just doing the darn thing. So, the three things that the worst PTs do. Number one, they don't organize. Number two, they don't plan. And number three, they don't implement. I hope that helps you. Wherever you are in your professional career, it's just true. I don't care if you've been practicing 25 years. You probably got away from implementing, or you slacked off with planning. You're like, I just been doing the same thing for 2 years, and you're right, I need a plan. I don't care where you are in your professional career. I'm telling you the truth. And if you're coming out of PT school, you've probably organized, and you're probably planning, and you're probably doing. The challenge is when you get out of PT school, no one holds you accountable. The one thing that's holding you accountable is getting that degree and graduating from that school. But when you're out in clinical practice, there is nobody holding you accountable. When you left high school, that was it. When you left your when you left your house, that was your parents. When you left PT school, that was the degree, that was the university. And now there's nobody there, and no one's going to keep you accountable to those top three things: organizing, planning, and implementing. So I hope that helps wherever you are in your professional career. Please don't get offended. I mean that in the greatest respect, and I hope that sets you up for success to start doing some of those three things. If you have any questions, share your wins with me. Let me know what questions you have. Share the wins. Dr. Chris at drchrisgarcia.com, and I will see you guys on the next episode. Take care, guys.